Kevin Kruse is on a mission over the next 10 years to ignite 100 million leaders around the world. That's quite a bit. He's the founder and CEO of LeadX.org, a next-generation AI-powered leadership development and management trading company. Kevin is also Inc. 500, Best Place to Work, award-winning entrepreneur, New York Times bestseller of 6 books, translated in 10 languages, a Forbes contributor, and a keynote speaker or advisor to Fortune 500 CEOs, nonprofit leaders, U.S. Marines, and members of Congress. Please welcome Kevin.
Thank you. I think the intros are longer than the talks on these things. So I am obsessed with leadership. I think leadership is a superpower. So I'm obsessed with how do we scale leadership, get more people to become leaders. And the traditional ways of handling leadership development, and we've had flaws for a long time. Most organizations will put new managers, put leaders into workshop environments. We know from something they call the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve that as soon as we leave that workshop, we start to forget what we just learned. We usually offer online e-learning catalogs, video libraries. The problem with those is that in any given month, only 5% of licensed users ever log in. Big waste of expenditures on that. Those who do take the online learning, the average net promoter score, according to the STAR report, is negative 56. So people aren't liking it very much. That leads to a lot of scrap learning. Depending on the estimates, it's anywhere from half to 80% of the time and money put into training is wasted. The biggest barrier these days is actually time. And there's a typo in my slide. Kelly had the right number. It's not 24 minutes a day, it's 24 minutes a week. 24 minutes a day would be a luxury, but we have less than 5 minutes a day to learn anything new. That's become the biggest barrier. Now, we know the best way to train managers, the best way to make leaders better. And that's by giving them an executive coach. When you get that kind of attention, an executive coach will typically, they'll give you a personality profile or an emotional intelligence assessment. They'll do a 360 survey to find out from your team members what should you start, stop, and continue doing. They'll work with you to come up with a specific goal, an action plan, and then, and this is key, they'll be your accountability buddy. So once a week, once every 2 weeks, they're going to give you a call or give you a Skype and say, hey, don't forget about your goal. Did you do your action plan? Why or why not? That's the single best way to develop as a leader. The problem is they're expensive. So most executive coaches charge anywhere from $250 to $500 an hour. You spend 2 to 4 hours a month with them, which is why, who gets the human executive coaches? The people who already have the most experience, which means they might not need the coach the most. They've been doing this for 10 or 20 years, or they've had 20 years to develop bad habits that are going to be really bad to get rid of. So a couple years ago, we thought, okay, we know human executive coaches work, but they're expensive. Can we start to work with AI? And in our case, we used IBM Watson. And we call our robot coach, Coach Amanda. It's actually IBM Watson on the AI pieces. And what's running in the background, now this does sound a little creepy, I realize, but we use what we call an AI digital twinning strategy. We want to create a digital twin of you. IBM Watson diagnoses your personality. Coach Amanda diagnoses your personality, knows what you're good at, what your developmental areas are in terms of leadership skills. If you know your StrengthsFinders profile, you can input your top signature themes. If you know your employee engagement, employee satisfaction results, you can import that. The more data, the better, because then Coach Amanda will know what areas you need assistance with and in what order. So after 2 years of development, we launched in November of last year. One way Coach Amanda helps managers is by sending behavioral nudges. So using the spacing effect and nudge theory, about once a week, your phone buzzes and Amanda is reminding you to apply a leadership tip or a management tip. In this case, it says, pro tip, start all team meetings with recognition for someone who deserves it. That habit drives engagement. Now that would be triggered for someone who either chose recognition and appreciation as a developmental goal, or maybe their engagement data was uploaded and that's what was flagged. Now, Coach Amanda will also teach you about management fundamentals, like how to give feedback, how to delegate, how to run one-on-one meetings. But because she knows your personality, she's tailoring the advice down to the sentence level. This is using what we call conversational learning. It's like you're texting a good friend if your good friend happened to be an executive coach. And so on the screen here, it's talking about delegation and pointing out the person's conscientiousness trait. In the real world, I'm very, very, very high on conscientiousness. Usually a good thing. But Coach Amanda told me, she said, Kevin, when it comes to delegation, be careful you don't become a perfectionist. Don't ever think, why delegate? I'm just going to have to do it over again myself anyway. Why delegate it? It's just faster to do it myself. And Amanda will remind me that delegation isn't about just saving me time, it's about developing your team members. If I had low conscientiousness, she would give me completely different advice. There's, of course, you can talk to Coach Amanda. It's a chatbot. You could ask her for leadership tips or advice. How do I tell someone they have body odor? Gets asked a lot. How do I manage someone who comes in late? How do I manage someone who dresses inappropriately? How do I manage someone who tells bad jokes or inappropriate jokes at work? These are all the kinds of things people are asking. Coach Amanda knows about a lot of different communication styles, personality styles, Myers-Briggs, et cetera. So if you've got an important meeting with your boss or a direct report, and you know they're an INTJ on Myers-Briggs, you could say, hey, how do I communicate with an INTJ and get some real-time tips? But the goal from the start was to create an executive coach-like experience. So now Coach Amanda will help you to choose a goal, create an action plan, and then once a week she's going to buzz your phone and say, hey, Kevin, friendly reminder, you're going to get better at public speaking. Your next action item was to watch some TED Talks. Did you do it or not? If I say yes, she'll invite me to jot a couple sentences to anchor my learning. If I say no, jot a couple sentences to say what got in the way of your progress this week, and that goes into my coaching diary. So there's different modes for this AI coach. Now the lessons learned, we're learning a lot. Those who use it like it. I mean, NPS scores in the 50 to 70 range. It's used several times a week, unlike most e-learning libraries. Training the open language chatbot is extremely hard. And it's not just the AI training, but I've changed my own views on this. So I don't know how many of you have like an Alexa or a smart speaker at home. When I first got mine, I didn't really know what to do with it. I had to learn how to speak robot. So it was like, hey, Alexa, what time is it? And then it was, Alexa, put milk on the shopping list. I learned how to do that. Alexa, what's the weather? I start to ask more and more. More recently, it's, Alexa, when do the Sixers play next? Which is tonight, by the way. So we've learned that training the human is just as much required as training the AI on some of these questions. And perhaps the biggest learning, maybe we shouldn't be surprised, but even though this is AI, and again, the goal, we're not pretending that Coach Amanda is equivalent yet to a human executive coach, but it's at about 1/1000th the price point. So this enables us to scale the coach-like experience down to the front lines, down to individuals who would never be able to afford a $200 executive coach. And yet, despite this, the single biggest variable for leadership development still is your own intrinsic motivation. You could take 100 people and say, hey, we've got a magic wand that will double your leadership effectiveness overnight. Who wants the magic wand? And you're going to get a bunch grab for it. Those are your high growth mindset people, people who are ambitious, people who want to get better, people who like learning. And there's going to be a bunch that they ain't touching that magic wand. They ain't touching it. They think they're too busy. They just don't care to get better, or they don't believe you that it's a magic wand. And then you get some group in the middle. So when it comes to evaluating these AI tools for leadership development, I think we do need to look at Net Promoter Score and usage and all the rest. But it comes back to that thing. What if everybody could have for free a human executive coach? Not everyone would want a human executive coach either. So it's not so much robot versus human. It's, do I have a growth mindset or not? Thanks.